Hi there, Sam. So I'm really sorry we didn't actually get to go live on Instagram tonight, but I wanted to. I'm not giving up the opportunity to bring your knowledge and expertise to my listeners. So a few weeks ago, Lottie and I went live to talk about mold on a physical level. And we had so many people emailing in, calling in, asking us questions, and the fear rose in our listeners, and I could hear it in some of the comments. And I don't like to raise fear, so I always like to give solutions.
Yes.
And that's why I wanted to bring you on board today.
Okay.
You're from Pure Maintenance. You're the
Yep.
company that we refer all of our clients to from a mold remediation point of view. Can you just quickly share with our listeners, where did Pure Maintenance birth from? Like, what is the purpose of Pure Maintenance?
Sure. So Pure Maintenance was established in the States about 20 years ago. Family-run business, basically trying to, at first they were designing a product that could be used for sterilization in surgical suites. And that developed, and they realized that, you don't need a superfine sterilant to kill viruses and pathogens and bacteria. But actually the application for the technology that they developed, so the patented dry fog, was really good at eradicating mold. And over in America, because of some of the legislation required in order to sell a property, it is difficult to get rid of mold, as we know. But over there, they needed a clean bill of health. And so they kind of established themselves as kind of the go-to for mold remediation, but not just from a demolition point of view or like a rip out and tear out point of view, but what can we do to lower the mold issues in the home as quick as possible in a safe way that's going to make it tolerable, safe for those that are sensitive. So that's how it started. Pure Maintenance. We purchased the license for the patent and started Pure Maintenance UK about 3 years ago, off of the back of a lot of their good work over in the States. They've worked a lot with other functional practitioners, and they're all over. Pure Maintenance is all over the States. So we are the license holders of the UK. We are established all over the UK now, so we can cover all customers and everyone that you'd be able to refer.
Amazing.
What's our purpose? Our purpose is to get rid of mold in your homes, but really it goes beyond that. It kind of stems from a personal experience and personal desire to help. We established this because we wanted to do good. We saw that there really wasn't many options out there for people that were looking for a non-toxic, non-invasive solution to help with health concerns relating to mold. Now that has snowballed. We've now cover, all sorts of situations, from landlords to commercial buildings to everything. But our real passion here is working with helping restore health in the home.
Great. So if I can ask you some questions specific about mold, because I could sit and talk to you for hours about mold. What most people's opinion or perspective of mold is the black stuff in the corner of the windows. And you know that that's not just the case. That's not just what we're looking for.
No,
Can you tell people a little bit about the way that mold can present or not present, but still be there? What can people be looking for? And what does that tell you about the rest of the picture of their house, or not in some instances?
Sure, very complex question to answer. So I'll try and break it down as simply as I can, whilst also not creating fear. Because as we know, health is a holistic a problem. You've got to care about the emotional well-being and the mindset, as well as the environmental factors that exist, including mold, right? So we're looking at big picture. What are people looking for? Well, the problem is most of the UK has high moisture. Most properties in the UK are built and designed to keep heat in, because we're a cold country. And so the problem is we often have high condensation areas, and also that's very likely to create mold. So really, what is the big risk factors for mold's growth? Well, it's moisture. It's your property not necessarily having structure which keeps moisture out, or ventilation which stops moisture from dispersing. So you're right. It's not just the mold in the corner of the room. That's generally what we'd say is condensation mold. The majority of mold in your home is non-visible. It's up to 95% of all mold in a property is hidden. You can't see it. So the problem is, what are you looking out for? Well, when we're looking as to whether there's a problem with mold in the property, we'll test. we'll survey, we'll use thermal cameras, hygrometers, protometers to work out, what's going on with the moisture. But the air testing will look to kind of see what's going on with the mold issue itself. But then we're also kind of taking into account people's comments on health symptoms.
Yeah.
So maybe allergenic symptoms, sometimes toxinogenic symptoms that they've got. So whether it's coughing or sneezing or skin rashes, which is more allergenic, or whether it's sleep issues or brain fog, which is more toxinogenic.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not a doctor, so I can't speak for that. I'll leave that to you guys. But we generally look at everyone's situation when they say they've got mold, and we kind of dive a bit deeper to see, well, do you? What's making you think that?
And actually, it wasn't until you and I spoke not long ago that I've always thought, I live in I don't know what my house is, 70s, a house. I know that it's in a damp area. I've done surveys. I've had you guys out. I've tested. You've treated. I've tested again. So I was always thinking new houses, they're good. But actually, you burst my bubble the other day, didn't you? By saying, actually, Joe, new houses aren't the solution in all opportunities.
Yeah, it totally depends. So there is no cut and dry answer to solving this problem. So mold, all it needs is, its existence, which is everywhere. It's an outdoor air, right? It's literally everywhere. It's all around us. It needs an environment to grow in. And oftentimes that is a moist environment where it's got food and access to moisture. But the mold that is most dangerous is mold that is put under stress. So it's mold that has established itself, put under stress. So what causes it to go under stress? Other mold species attacking it, humans cleaning it, moisture being taken away or food being taken away, which makes it spore more aggressively. And so a new build property isn't necessarily the answer, because one, the way in which they're built, oftentimes with a bit of negligence from the build and not necessarily keeping moisture out, and then force drying it, putting it under stress, the mold under stress. So whilst it may appear dry, you're then left with the remnants of fragments of mold, or mold that's still got issues. But it's not just the mold spores, it's the mycotoxins, or it's the secondary metabolites that mold creates, which also have impact on the body, of the toxins
and that's in the air that we're breathing all of the time, isn't it?
Yes, inside the property. Obviously, if you've got that environment where mold's been created now. And this is why it's really hard, because not every single person that lives in a moldy environment is necessarily going to be impacted by it from an allergenic point of view.
Yeah.
It completely depends on your environment, your ability to your lymphatic system to drain those pathways, whether they're already blocked or whether there's already issues going on, whether your susceptibility. So it's very difficult to predict that. We have people that live in very moldy properties whose husband doesn't experience anything and thinks, what on earth are you going on about? Wife is like, what, I'm absolutely dying here. Why is he not suffering? Can't give you that answer. But it doesn't necessarily mean he's not. He might be suffering long-term toxinogenic, carcinogenic response.
But it also comes down to the genetic uniqueness of that individual. Yes. And you and I could be in the same circumstances, but genetically I'm weaker than you, and therefore my body doesn't cope with it, or my mitochondria is already fatigued, or I've already got other toxins in the toxic bucket. And I think that's important. So if we can go on and talk a little bit about treatment. So a lot of people, and I'm still hearing this on a pretty regular basis, see black mold in the corner of their window and start spraying it with bleach. Yep. Why is that not the right treatment? Because they're right, they might lessen the black spores that are visible to the naked eye.
Sure. So common misconception, and this kind of stems back to 1970s America, when bleach kind of first came into play. Bleach doesn't actually kill mold. It just dyes the pigment. So it might help to reduce and break down some of the biofilm, but the mold is still going to exist. And in the process of you trying to get rid of it, you put it under stress, which has meant that it's spored more aggressively into your airspace. It's a bigger health concern, which is why the common misconception comes about that dead mold is more dangerous. A lot of that rhetoric is because people misconstrued mold that's been bleached, or what they thought was dead, when it's not actually dead. It's still alive. It's just the pigment's been changed, the coloration's been changed. So you think it's gone, it's not. And is it toxinogenic still? Yes, it definitely is. And so, bleach, I would say big no-no for getting rid of mold. I'd say it's a bit like putting a plaster on a broken leg. That's the kind of analogy we use. Yes, it might mask the problem, but you're not getting to the root of it. It's still going to exist. if you've got small amounts of mold, a condensation mold, and you're looking to try and sort it and stop it from escalating, I would say, if you're comfortable, get a N95 mask on, get some white vinegar, and wipe it down, get ventilation with cross ventilation from windows across both sides of the house. In small areas, that's totally fine. I would say, what defines a small area? Very difficult, because it's all down to the sensitivity of the individual, their budget, and also, their access to be able to treat. I would say for most people, if you've got visible mold, it does need professional remediation.
I agree. Now, before we go into talking about how you would do that, one of the concepts that's very much bandied about in social media and out there on the internet, if you Google, I've got mold, what should I do, is literally walk away from the house with nothing but the clothes on your back. So take no self-furnishing, take no clothes, no kids' teddies, no mattresses, no nothing with you. Surely that can't be the solution either.
Well, they actually say to leave naked. So
okay, so you can't even take the clothes off your back.
No clothes on your back. That's why, I think the whole point there is that you end up in prison because you get in trouble for walking around naked, and therefore obviously no mold in prison.
No mold in prison.
No. No. So what would I say to that? Well, ideally, if you're sensitive to mold, that is the way to detox, is to leave naked, right? But that's not feasible for most people, especially in the UK, where most properties have some level of fungal ecology that is going to be, causing issue. So what do we do? Well, it's all about trying our best to lessen that problem. We're never going to make it sterile, and we don't want to make it sterile either. We're looking to reduce the toxic load to what's more, tolerable for the individual. Technically, when you remediate a property, it is a very short-term thing. It's on the moment that you've reduced the mold, it's therefore remediated. The day you open up windows and doors, clearly you're going to have mold come back in. It's the levels, it's the environment, and it's also the species of mold that impacts that toxic environment. So, is it possible? In some situations, we've seen it where no matter how much you treat and remediate, someone is incredibly sensitive. They've got to that point where it's like soft furnishings, there's not really much you can do. But that's not most people. And the problem is those individuals that are that sensitive, when they are so vocal about their own situation, they put on other people the fear that if they don't do it perfectly, that they'll never heal or get better. And because people haven't got better yet, they sit there and go, well, I only want to do this once because of budget. I have to go to the nth degree to do it. But that really messes with the mind, because mold is an invisible force. And so the problem is you don't know and you can't see it. And so then it comes down to relying on individuals or companies like ourselves to do the right thing and help you to the best of our ability. But we're also limited. So what do people do? I would say it depends on the individual, depends on their attitude, depends on their budget. For most people, it is very, very possible to remediate and have success and be healthy again in the home. I've done it myself. I've been there. I've done it. Well, I'm not wearing the t-shirt because I'm leaving naked, but you get my point.
I do get your point. So tell us about, what does remediation mean for Pure Maintenance? Because there's different mold companies out there. I have specifically chosen to recommend you guys because I like the ethos of the company, the personality of the company, but more important than that is the quality of the remediation. So tell my listeners all about what that looks like when you bring somebody into my house.
Well, there is such a large amount of varying types of remediation. What does remediation mean? It basically means to restore. It means to remediate the home back to the stage that it was prior to the mold, right? Well, what does that look like? It looks different for different companies. There's different attitudes. If you're talking to a landlord wants to remediate from an aesthetic point of view, don't care about the health.
Yeah.
So from your guys' perspective, what is remediation? What are your patients looking for? What are your customers looking for? They're looking to restore their home to healthy.
Yeah.
They're looking to be able to breathe in their home and not worry that it's impacting kids' immune systems. So how do we go about that? Well, we listen to the individual needs of your patients or whoever calls us. We'll listen to what they feel is going on, and we'll create a bespoke treatment plan. Now, that might just be air testing. That might be survey with a one-day treatment. For most people, a one-day treatment plan where we come and survey and treat on the same day is sufficient. For some, or for the most sensitive, and again, this is all about budget, time, and also desire to solve the problem, it might be a long tail endeavor to get your property resolved, which might start with survey and testing, or even more invasive surveying with more complex testing. With rip out and tear out, it might then include some sterilization, then some more testing to see where we're at, and then also some further sterilization. It literally is. So where do we come in? Well, we can advise on all of it. We don't specialize in all of it. We specialize in the sterilization, the treatment of your home once the source of the problem has been fixed. And what do I mean by source of the problem? Source of the moisture. So if you have an active leak, if you have penetrating damp or rising damp, or if you have extreme condensation, that you're, for example, a tenant and you have no desire to change it, well, getting us into treat at that stage might not be the best thing, because our fog won't necessarily penetrate the moisture or the wet or the damp, and your molds like to come straight back. If you've got a limited budget, great, because we can treat
coming back,
and we'll just come back if it does come back, right? But if you're looking to get the most bang for your buck, as the Americans say, yeah, you want to get to the source of the problem first, then get us in, and we'll mop up and solve all the residual mold spores.
Yeah, and that's quite often what I say to a client. Had one the other day. Joe, got a problem with the chimney. What order do we do it in? Chimney first, pure maintenance next, and then let's see what we're left with for the wood for the trees from a health point of view.
Yes.
So just explain a little bit about the dry fogging processes and what is it that you're fogging with? Sure.
So we're using peracetic acid, which or online a lot of people see it called Instapure, which is basically fogged at such high pressure in your property that we create this positive pressure, which forces the fog into every nook and cranny. That basically is what breaks down the cell of the spore, and then oxidizes the nucleus in a process called lysis. There's a lot of Brownian motion that goes on when we're in a property, so there's a lot of volatility with the actual compound that we're using. So it is totally non-toxic, but during that process, the mold is being basically rendered inert. So there's a lot of people out there that will say, well, actually, you're just fragmenting the spores. We're fragmenting them into inert nothingness. So the spores are becoming completely non-toxinogenic or allergenic whatsoever. So all you're left with is basically the mycotoxins. Now, this is where people get a bit confused, because mycotoxins and spores are totally different. And a lot of people respond differently to mycotoxins and spores. The problem is you can't get rid of mycotoxins long term without actually getting rid of the source of the mycotoxins, or what creates them, which is the mold, the fungus, the spores, or the hyphae that's creating it. But oftentimes people are most sensitive, and their ill health comes as a result of the mycotoxins. So it's hard to distinguish for people the difference. So our job is to reset the fungal ecology, to get rid of the spores, to reset the mold. And we will guarantee that we'll do that in a property. And we'll give a warranty to people that we will achieve that in those circumstances where they're putting into place those things that will limit future moisture issues. Sorry, I've got a bit lost there and can't remember exactly.
No, it's really helpful. So I guess the bit that would be good to sort of carry on with is, so coming into the house, maybe you've tested my house, you've found out that I have got mold spores, mycotoxins, but we've dealt with the cause, I've dealt with my leak. What would you go for from there?
Okay, so we would get one of our technicians in that arrive in the morning. They would do a survey to begin with anyway, just to make sure that was the case, to make sure that the leak or the problem was solved. It doesn't always have to be completely solved. This is a bit of a grey area, but that's down to us as to whether we'll give you guys a warranty based on what we find. That's really the point of the survey, and also what we're looking at. Do we think we'll be able to treat successfully within the parameters of what we give as success? So we'll do the survey. We'll then treat the property with the dry fog technology, which is the Instapure. So we'll denature all of the spores, we'll reduce them all. Once that's done and we've created this positive air pressure in your entire home, think of it like a pressure cooker, that we're cooking the entire house with pressure. The mold has nowhere to go. The fog is getting into every nook and cranny. Once that's done and we've left that to dwell for a significant portion of time, which we then know we'll be able to actually done and dealt with the problem, we'll then use what's called our Everpure, or 3-trihydroxylpropyl-methylectadosyl-ammonium chloride, which is a bit of a mouthful.
I'm not going to say that one again.
Don't need to say that. The reason I say that is, one, to show off, two, to sound clever, and three, because if anyone is interested in that, they can obviously go and Google it. So again, totally non-toxic compound, but that's basically, well, how would we describe that? It's like a bed of nails on your surfaces. So as a spore enters in your property, again, it will land on the surface. It will die on impact when it hits that pin or that nail.
That's why you feel confident to be able to guarantee that your work is successful. Yeah,
and it's again, it's not 100%. So you're still going to have mold spores come back into the property, but we're looking to make it your property, an environment where mold finds it difficult to land and germinate and create the same environment it did before. So as long as we've reduced it to very, very significant levels, and also we've protected majority of surfaces, yes, you might have some spores exist, but you're not going to have the same situation as you did before. And for most people, that creates an environment where they can heal.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's not everyone. I have to say there are limitations, because some people are incredibly sensitive, and some people do need a break from the mycotoxins. And unfortunately, mycotoxins do take significantly longer to vent out of the property because the size of them. So for some, especially those with the likes of MCAS, we would oftentimes, let them know that it is a longer process to have full remediation of mold and mycotoxins in their property.
Yeah, yeah. But with the exception of those really sensitive people, generally what you're saying, within an 8-hour period, you're able to come in and treat a full-sized house.
Yeah. And
then retest the air test afterwards and see a difference within that short period of time, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah, so we'll test before treatment of outdoor air and also the property beforehand, and also we'll do one after treatment as control, just to be able to see and make sure that we've done our job properly. If anyone wants to know specifically what speciation of mold that they've got prior to treatment, we can do PCR testing for that as well. But the quality control testing is done for your benefits, so we've kept our word, but also for us internally to know, okay, we can feel good about that. We know we've done our job properly.
Absolutely. And I mean, you get back positive stories of children with autism that have had improvements in their verbal reasoning skills. You've got people with chronic fatigue that are less fatigued, people with autoimmunity that are having better control of their autoimmune diseases. I mean, actually, Sam, there's not many people, with the exception of us here at Embracing Nutrition, who absolutely love their job, that can go to work every single day and go, I know I'm making that much of a difference to people's lives.
Well, thank you, because that is, that's what we feel. And I know there's some people that are dubious out there. There are limitations to what we do, but we're really passionate about, one, who we are and what we stand for, and also two, what we can do to help people. And that's what we're in it for.
Brilliant. And what I just always want to end with, whenever I go live on Instagram, I like to give people take homes. Now, of course, one of the take homes from tonight is, have I got a problem? Has somebody here at Embracing Nutrition suggested that you might have mold? Because we do our own testing, as you know, on the human. And that's why we're sending so many people your way, because so many of the tests are coming back with mycotoxins at really high levels, together with their symptoms. We're like, there's no point in treating the individual if you're leaving the environment toxic, because you're not going to make a difference. And that's why we have to work hand in hand with you guys. But if I could ask you for, I generally go for 3, Sam, take homes that people can put in place to at least, this is not going to change the need to have you out to treat. But I know when I had Pure Maintenance out for my house, I know there was little things that we've carried on doing ever since you came out, around humidity, around managing my property to minimize long-term problems. So do you mind just sharing 3 quick take homes? And like I said, it's not taken away from, people might need to get you out and do a full remediation.
Sure. The number one thing I would say to people is, and I've already actually said it, is the first thing is, be very aware of your mindset when you're going into this, because I've seen people get incredibly ill, and I do believe that a lot of that is because of the negative mental spiral that they've taken when they're fighting an invisible force. So if anyone's listening to this, I plead with you not to have severe anxiety about the mold that you know is in your bathroom. It didn't kill you before. You're still alive right now. That is one of the things I would say. I don't like to talk about mold to create anxiety.
Yeah.
And we only play one part in this, which is to reset the property. It's then you guys as functional practitioners that come in to help people with their health. In terms of the actual moisture and the mold that people have, what take-homes can they take straight away? I would say ventilation is number one. And we do this in our house all the time, even though we don't have mold. We open up all windows and doors across the entirety of the house because you get that cross ventilation, which pulls through not only mold, but any pollutants in your airspace, any indoor quality issues, which if you open up all windows and doors on one side of the property and then the other, the airflow will just come and take it all straight through. Fine, it's not going to get rid of the source, but all of those millions of spores that have built up, you'll take a lot of them out.
And that's what people aren't doing at this time of the year because of the cold weather and the fear of, cost of living and cost of electricity and gas. People are closing the windows. People are, keeping the doors shut to try to keep their houses warm.
It's really, really hard. I know. I would say another big one is it's washing clothes on radiators. It's the amount of moisture you create. If you're going to cook, if you're going to have a shower, you've got to get rid of the moisture. So what people don't realize is that warm air holds more moisture than cold air. That's put simply. And what happens is when you have a difference between warm air and cold air in your house, let's say, for example, you are all breathing in your home and you're creating moisture, sits in your airspace, no condensation's formed. You're at the stage where your air's hot. You go to bed, temperature drops, it becomes cold. All that moisture turns to condensate on your cold surfaces. That's one of the biggest causes of the moisture and therefore leading to contributory causes of mold forming. So I would say trying to have an even spread of temperature, not having a big drop off of your temperature in your home. That's one of the things. Ventilation, obviously, using the home ventilation systems that you've got, so extractor fans, all those type of things. That's all moisture control. If you're already at the stage where you've got mold or you're feeling sensitive towards mold or you feel like you're responding to it, it sounds harsh, but I'm really sorry, you're at a stage where you need remediation.
I agree.
Yeah.
We don't want to give take homes that's not going to work. Yes, no. I'm very much about moisture control. I do it myself. I didn't realize how, because in our bathrooms, our extractor fans are linked to our light. You come out the shower, you turn off the light, you turn off the extractor fan. So actually one of the changes that we did is, I know it's not great from an electricity point of view, but we just leave the light on for 30 minutes after we've had a shower, open up the window, leave the extractor fan on. And actually that's made such a difference to the moisture control. And how we know that is we're measuring the moisture in different rooms in our houses. And the difference is as much as sort of 12 to 15% moisture changes by just that really simple behavioral change that actually it was your guys that said that to me. And it was a bit of a like, well, of course you turn the extractor fan off as soon as you walk out. It's not going to benefit you. So, but it is so simple. But actually, I'm so glad you didn't give a half-hearted take home for treating mold, because we can't do that. Unfortunately, it is an investment that's worth making in changing the terrain that you're living in to change the terrain of your body.
Well, this is the thing, Joe. It's sorry, you were going to finish and I start talking now. It's very, very difficult, because if I give some advice to someone, it's every single person that I would advise is bespoke on their property. Some people I would be telling them to get rid of moisture. Some people would need more moisture. And so the problem is, if I said this on BBC radio and very similar things, gave advice, and then you get the counter, which is, hang on, I did what you said, but I had other issues come as a result. For example, if I advise someone to reduce the moisture in their property, they might go really heavy with reducing moisture, turn the mold under severe stress, get severe issues. It's all about a balanced approach to looking at this. You can't be extreme in any way. But the problem with that is that then people don't take it seriously. So it's like, if you've got a problem, and if anyone's listening to me, that here's my voice here, yes, very busy running a mold remediation company. But I will take the time to answer your question. I will answer the question with your bespoke problem, and I'll do my best to help and give you advice that's needed for you. Because every single person is different, especially if you're suffering with health issues. I know what it's like. I've been there, and yeah, it's not nice.
And I think how I want to end is the synergism between your company and mine, because it's about an individualized approach.
Yeah.
Isn't one size fits all. We know from a functional medicine point of view, you can't write a protocol and expect everybody to follow the protocol in the same way. It doesn't work.
No.
And that's exactly what you're saying from a remediation point of view. What worked for me and my property won't work for the next man who's got a different type of property. And here in the UK, all of our properties are different, aren't they?
Yeah.
So I think where that's in, bringing all that together, I actively recommend Pure Maintenance to any of my clients I'm concerned with mold in, and any of our listeners today. This is the man that you need to talk to if you've got a mold issue. So thank you so much for your time this evening, Sam. And thank you to all of our listeners. And as always, please do remember to share anything you hear here tonight, because Sam has given up his time for me to educate us. And actually, if this doesn't directly affect you, it might affect your neighbor, your loved one, the person you meet on the playground in the morning. So please share, and let's all make a difference. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Jo.